Chubb, running back.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. We are back, better than ever. Summer scouting, NFL, OBR prospect spotlight. We've been off since we started doing mock draft duel. My last episode was probably somewhere in December or something like that. But we're back for summer scouting this year. So welcome in. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed OBR Weekly before us. We'll be here every week at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays talking through summer scouting as we look ahead to the 2026 draft. So if you are draft freaks like us, we are very happy to have you here. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, give a thumbs up, hit that bell so you know every time we go live, every time we post a video. This is pre-recorded the week before, so I do apologize. We won't be live on these pods, but they will stream live Wednesdays at 8. I'm your host, Jacob. Joining me this week in the guest host, co-host chair, Mr. Bill Sparks. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Jacob. You know, it's summer scouting season, diving in, unless you're crazy like me and already have 400 plus prospects on your big board and still looking for more tape to grind. But man, this is what we live for. And I'm ready to get into it today. I think we're talking offensive tackles today.
Yeah, offensive tackles. So I put out a post over on the OBR's website, and I was like, where do you want me to start on summer scouting? Where do you want these articles and things to start? And offensive tackle is the first answer I got. So that is where I started. I started wide receiver, but for some reason I decided to start the pods on offensive tackle. So I'm lying to you. But no, I really liked the offensive tackle group that I have watched so far. And so I was like, when we decided we were going to start doing draft pods here on the OBR, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start with offensive tackle. Real quick, I wanted to take just a little peek behind the screen of how summer scouting goes. This is really my first year reporting summer scouting. Now I've done where I've watched people in the summer and I've listened to pods and things like that, but I've never done like straight up articles and pods dedicated to scouting for the next summer. This past year was my first time where that was my full-time gig as a content creator here at the OBR. That's what I did. I'm the draft guy at the OBR. That's what I do. This past year was my first year, so I've really stepped up my game just because I have to run the whole thing, so to speak. Like that is my gig now. And so this is my first forte into summer scouting. Last year was the first time I actually did a top 100 and a top 150. So we're kind of going through here, but I would end it real quick. My process is pretty simple, and then I'll let Bill speak on his just a little bit on how he goes about it. A lot of times what I end up doing is I go to like mock draft simulators and I go to other big boards and other people's reporting. And that's where I get the names. And then I start watching them. So it's like if I go to a mock draft simulator, for example, if you go to PFFs right now, the number one quarterback they have ranked is Arch Manning. So if I was going into this, the way I did do the quarterbacks, and I'm working on that, that'll be a bigger pod later in the summer. But I would go in there and I just write down the names of their top 10, right? Just, okay, here's the names of the top 10. And then I go find the all 22 film I have. And sometimes I watch some YouTube breakdowns on them and stuff. And I read what other people have said and things like that. And then I put it all together. And then I kind of write out a profile for myself. And I do that throughout the year. And then like I've heard we are in the draft. If you haven't checked out the draft professor, you should absolutely do that as well. But we have a group chat of like 75 draft professors, and I'll go in there and be like, give me some edge names, give me some wide receiver names. And then I'll take especially if I love when one pops up I've never heard of, love that. Because then I'm like, great, awesome. Like you said, you're looking for more tape to grind. I go in there, I look at it, I'm like, awesome. That's exactly what I want to do. I need this name. Like Fernando Mendoza was not on my radar. And then our friend, former OBR staffer, Corey Kinnan, was like, this might be my QB1. And I'm like, well, hold up. If Corey is saying that, I need to watch this guy. And I was like very, very happy that I did. But yeah, that's the simple process for me on how I start building that thing. And then as more names come up, if I'm like, I've never heard of this guy, but I legitimately think he's my number 5 quarterback or number 1 wide receiver, whatever, I'll just bump him because that's where it is. And it's an ever evaluating process for me, but that's how I do it. So when you come to start building your board and whatnot, Bill, how do you go about it?
Yeah, so I get lucky every year when I start my big board. Typically, I start it in April of the previous year. So in April, I'm the psycho that's running 2 congruent classes current year and next year. But I'm looking at all draftable prospects, so any redshirt sophomore and up. And I'm taking what I do is I take the top 25 teams and I start in reverse. So who finished 25th, I watch just tape and I'm looking who flashes, who pops. Write their name down, and then I go back through. Typically, I look 2 to 3 games at a time, see if I get consistent flashes and pops from that player, put them on the list, and then I work my way all the way up to number 1. Then once I've done that, it's kind of a process in that I take whichever conference gave me the most talent. So let's say I watched Big Ten and I had the most players flash from the Big Ten. Whoever I didn't watch, I go through the rest of their conference. And then the second place and third place and so on and so forth. By the time I'm finished, I end up on average in the summer between 400 to 450 prospects. Not all of them will declare. Some of them will go into the next year. So then that next year, I have a board of already about 100 players started that I can then toggle and move around. Most cases I end up at the 400 marker, and that's where I get those players like you referenced, the people that aren't talking about the Fernando Mendozas, the Sam Levitts, Arizona State, some of the other names we'll talk about today when we talk offensive tackles. I've got 2 names that are at bigger schools, but probably haven't been talked about nearly as much. But that's where I get those, and then obviously when I have that list of players, then I go in, I dive the tape, looking at, okay, their entire body of work, an entire season, multiple seasons if needed. Because on my big board, not only does every player get a grade, they also get a comp. I am the comp king as referred to. So in order to get that accurate comp, to give people knowledge on what they're watching and what they're going to get out of this player, you got to watch the whole thing. And that's what I'm here to do. That's the fun part about it.
Yeah, that's one thing that I didn't mention that I do very much enjoy is having done some of the work for myself, for the guys that stay, the guys that go back. Like I will rewatch Drew Aller and Garrett Nussmeier, but I have full on write-ups of them already done. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I haven't rewatched them yet. I will before I put together my probably going to do a top 15 here on the OBR for quarterbacks. And that's going to come a little later in the summer just because I want to do extra work on that than what I'm doing on this. But yeah, like with them, I feel pretty good. Even Cade Klubnik. I did a lot of work on Cade Klubnik last year. And it's like, oh, so I can go over to the Excel spreadsheet from last year, just copy and paste that into 2026 notes and just be like, okay, let's go from there. So today we're going to talk offensive tackles. We've got 3 guys apiece. I don't know Bill's list. He doesn't know my list. What I do want to say, I can't speak for Bill. He can say this. These are not necessarily my top 3. I do want to say that they're not necessarily my top 3. Like the article versions of these that I'm writing up for the website, I'm not really ranking them right now because I haven't seen enough. Quarterbacks, I've watched a lot of quarterbacks. I'm starting to rank them. But like I have only watched like 7 offensive tackles. I'm not going to make a top 5 or a top 10 considering that's the amount of people I've watched. I can slide them back and forth in there, but I think it's a little bit unfair. But these are guys that I have watched that I'm intrigued by that I want you guys to know going into the 2025 regular season for college football. So Bill, give me your first guy, man.
Yeah, so and I did a little fun. All 3 of these guys are in my top 7 offensive linemen and my top 64 already. So these are names you've probably heard of, but we're going to start at the very top. We're going to start with my number 3 overall prospect on my big board right now. It's Francis Mauigoa from Miami. I mean, listen, 6'6", 315. This dude is a freakish athlete, moves like he's 6'1", 200 pounds, just fluid. Probably some of the most violent hands of any offensive lineman in this class or in the past couple of classes. Just punches people through the chest. has a natural mirror ability in pass protection. This guy not going to be an issue in the pass protection department. Very controlled aggression. He is nasty. He wants to hurt you and then pick you up off the ground and hurt you again. That's exactly how he plays. The big concerns for me is his hand placement is a little still inconsistent. There's going to be a lot of stuff that he gets away with at Miami that's not going to fly in the NFL. Does also rely too heavily on his physical dominance. He's got these God-given athletic physical talents. He just needs to refine it and work on the technique. Like I said, number 3 overall prospect, my top offensive lineman on my board. When I watch him, I see everything that I saw in Penei Sewell at Oregon. I see in Maui Goa. So the concern is he's right tackle at Miami. Could you flip him to the left side? I absolutely think you could. It's the same conversation we had with Armand Membu this past season. Do you flip him to the left or do you keep him at right? I think it's dependent on what your team needs. And if you're the Browns, you're banking on DeJuan Jones locking down that left side, and then you take Maui Goa to replace Conklin on the right.
Yeah, that's been the really interesting thing. And I had a conversation with Pete Smith at the OBR as well about this, where I'm trying to analyze these tackles, but I'm also like thinking about it in a Browns lens. And I can't decide if I want to watch more right tackles or more left tackles. Cause like, as it stands in the summer, they are very clearly giving DeJuan Jones every opportunity to be the left tackle. So that kind of says, well, maybe I go to right tackle. But then again, I'm like, well, how about I just do a little bit of both? And so I'm going back and forth. Okay, so for me, the first one I want to give, because I want to build off of what you said. Yep. You talk about a guy that relies more on his God-given talent. That's kind of where I'm at with my favorite tackle I've watched so far, which is Caden Proctor, the left tackle from Alabama. I think that's what he does a little bit, where I think he leans on some of his God-given talent, where you're like, your technical aspects of your game, your hand placement, your footwork, some of that stuff, it's not quite there, but like when it is there, like it's very inconsistent, but when he does have proper technique, when he does play the leverage game, you're like, holy shit. Like like, okay, so 6'7", 370 pounds for Caden Proctor is just insane. Massive. And yet one of the most athletic tackles I've watched in a while. Like not just this year, in a while. Like I really think the athletic ability is there. It's, like I said, some of the footwork stuff will kind of mask it to the point where you're like, he could have some bad footwork, but because of the athlete that he is, it may look a little clunky, but he gets it done because he's able to kind of out-athlete some of his deficiencies, which is not going to work at the next level. But that's also where we're sitting here in June talking about a guy that's got a full year ahead of him at Alabama. I'm looking through my notes. Good power, raw power and strength. Technique issues show in the run game. They show much more in the run game than they do in the pass game. I think in the pass game, he looks a little bit more refined. I think that I think I texted you this literally. I'm like, he just strong arms players as a pass protector. Yeah. He just like,
stonewalls and just pushes them back. Yeah. And part of that is him being 370 pounds. And part of that is he's got what I like to call a naval freighter strength. This guy is the SS Proctor. You get out of his way or he will move you. My biggest concern, and I don't know how deep you got into it if you're able to see it, but watch when Alabama goes up tempo and no huddle.
Yeah.
His conditioning issues really show there, and that's concerning. Yes, he's 370 pounds. He's going to have them. But it shows, and it causes his pad level to rise, and it causes hand placement. Basically, he gets tired, and everything goes out the window, which is understandable at 6'7", 370. But, man, he's... Whew.
The note that I wrote is, if he can refine his technique and pair it with some of the special physical traits he has, he will be a fantastic left tackle. And here's something that I want to remind you. If the Browns go into this season, into next offseason, looking at a left tackle, and especially if Andrew Berry is still the general manager, a lot of stuff can happen between now and January. when he is all of this tape that I watched of him last year, he was 19. He is about to turn 20, which means, and here's the thing that I really, really like, he, as a rookie, he will be 21 years old and have three years of starting starting left tackle experience in the SEC for Alabama. His freshman year was a little rough, and that's what gives me a lot of hope for this year's, because he made just a massive leap last year in his second season as a starter, which is very similar to how I see like a quarterback like Drew Aller, where I really like Drew Aller's projection because he had a massive jump last year than he did from 2023. But yeah, Proctor was a lot of fun because the highs are very high. But yes, there's some lows there. But a lot of the stuff that I have issues with are just technical aspects of things, because like he's got power, he's got speed, he's got athleticism, like he's got all of those things. I'm with you on the conditioning thing. I did see that a few times, and the pad level is a concern at 6'7", because you can give up you want to stand up when you're that big. I get it, but yeah, it's all technical refinement. And, if he makes a leap like he made from 23 to 24 this year, you're talking about a top 5 pick. That's the ceiling for Caden Proctor.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. The big thing, and I stress this, that Georgia game against that Georgia defensive line, where it's, pardon the pun, full of dogs that are now in the league, and he mauled them. And that is not any sort of playing around, beating around the bush. He mauled them. For me, I've got him right now as my 20th overall player, my 4th offensive line, and a first round grade. I see Evan Neal. I know it's cheap because they both went to Alabama. They both played that tackle spot, both larger. But everything that you got out of Evan Neal from a college standpoint, you see in Proctor. But I argue that Proctor was stronger now than Neal was coming out of college. So a stronger version of Evan Neal, you take that in the top 10, top 15, maybe even top 5.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. All right, man. Let's get another one from you.
Yeah, so another one, I'm going to go to the Big Ten for this one. This is Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. So 6'7", 329. Just his foot quickness is the first thing that stands out. With a massive frame at 329, you think probably not going to be very quick on his feet. This guy can move. He's a dancing bear. He's a ballet bear when you watch him. He also has a basketball background, and that's evident in his body control and how he's able to control edge rushers, push them around the edge. But he is probably one of the nastiest finishers in the run game. Like, you thought I was high on Maui Goa as his mean streak. Tiernan's is arguably even more mean and violent. He also, Northwestern prospect. To get into Northwestern, you got to have some intelligence. They got some high academic standards, and that shows up in his blitz recognition and his pass protection skills and his ability to handle complex schemes. The big thing, obviously, the taller frame. We talked about it with Proctor. We talked about it with Maui Goa. You want to stand up and give up that pad level. His weight distribution often sometimes kind of leans a little bit forward, almost looks like he's lunging a little bit. It's not a full lunge. He just gets out over his skis too much. For me, Tiernan is my offensive lineman number 5 on my board and my 27th overall prospect. So this is going to be, I have a 2nd round grade on him, but probably could fall into the late 1st. You see a lot of Brian O'Neill when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, played right tackle for them. I think Tiernan probably slots in better at the right tackle spot, but he's playing left tackle at Northwestern, and I think he could be a blindside protector in the NFL. But if a team took him and said, hey, you're going to flip to the right side, I absolutely would not be opposed to that whatsoever.
I think it's really interesting, and this is probably a bigger conversation to have. I no longer give a shit about one of my tackles having priority in terms of one of them being more important. I don't know what you think. I no longer view. I think you need 2 tackles. I think both of you, you could still make an argument that left tackle needs to be the best, but Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, we're talking about some of the best pass rushers. I think Max Crosby lines up on the right side too, doesn't he? if I'm not crazy. So you're talking about 3 of the best pass rushers just right there. And that's just off the top of my head. I'm not even like Googling it, not even putting much research into this statement, but like those are guys on the right side. Like, so like, yeah, I get the blind side and things like that, but like, I'm all about like, hey man, give me 2 really good tackles. Like if like with Mimbu, my thing with Mimbu was like, yeah, he's a right tackle. And if you don't have either side of the like some people will be like, well, we need a left tackle is more important. I'm like, I don't think it's more important. I think having good tackles, if the best tackle available is your right tackle, you take him. That's just kind of where I was in this cycle. And it's kind of watching this class. A lot of the top guys I like are right tackles. Like, and so it's like, that's also why I'm like, come on, Dwan, come on, buddy. Like you can do it.
Yeah. And we talked about that too. Like I'm with you. I think it doesn't necessarily matter whether you're left side or right side. You need 2 good tackles. And what you need is you need one who can handle the bull rushers, the strength guys, the push through your chest folks. Then you need one that can play with a little more finesse, push people on the outside edge, the Micah Parsons, the Max Crosbys, the TJ Watts, the things of that nature. You have to have one of each. Whether you put them on the left side or the right side doesn't necessarily matter, because you look at Miami. Their blind side protector is on the right side.
Yeah.
Dylan Gabriel, if he's the starting quarterback, guess what? The blind side protector is now Jack Conklin. So it all depends on what your offense runs. But I think you need 2 NFL tackles. Now, when it comes to paying in terms of contract and salary cap, there's still the old adage that you pay the money to the left tackle. There's the positional value of you draft the left tackle. I get that. But at a certain point, if you don't have, it's like the old adage about quarterbacks. If you have 8 quarterbacks, you have none. You have no offensive tackles. You really have none. Go get some.
Get as many as possible. I'm going to stay on the right side. This is my favorite right tackle that I've watched so far. It's Spencer Fano from the right tackle from Utah. I like him a little bit smaller compared to some of these other guys that we're talking about, because he's only 6'5".
Yeah.
He's only
no biggie. Only 6'5", right?
6'5", 302. He's a little bit lean, got a little bit leaner of a build. One thing that I love about, we talk about some strong, violent hands. Once Fano gets his hands on you in the run game and he's moving you, that leg drive, man, he is a finisher. He's get my hands on you, use that powerful lower body, he likes to put you in the dirt if he can, so you better be ready for it, because that's what he's looking to. You talk about mean streak. That's something I see in Fano. I think it's Fano. Is it Fano? Fano?
Fano is what I've been told. Okay. So
all right. I think he's got kind of a mean streak. His power, he's got explosive power. He really explodes into you with that power, which is what I think you need to do to be a mover. And I always talk about run blockers as guys that, for me, an adequate run blocker just holds his ground. And yeah, he may not move the guy out of the way, but he doesn't let the guy get to you. The step above that is where Fano is, and that's a mover. That's a mover and a pusher and a I've seen him move 2 people where he hits some guy with his hands, he explodes into him, shoves him over to his guard, then climbs up and gets his hands on a linebacker. And I'm like, oh, sure. Sure. Okay.
Sure,
whatever.
No big deal.
I like his movement skills. He's able to stand up against movement, power and speed guys relatively well as a pass protector. Sometimes I think he gets beat by some of the speed rushers, and especially the power rushers that he doesn't expect to be quite as powerful. Like if you've got a speed to power, going speed to power the whole game, and then they do power right off the riff, I think you can kind of stun him and you can kind of knock him back. But I love his recovery. I think he recovers and re-engages when he is beat like that. Another guy who I'm just like, hand placement, man, inconsistent as heck. Like, just if it was more consistent, like, I think you're an elite run blocker, but you don't even have consistent hand placement yet. And like, that's and so you're like, okay, 100%. What can you coach? What can you coach him up? I think sometimes he gets a little over aggressive, kind of leans forward a little bit too much, which he whiffs on blocks when he does that. And then the other thing that's going to come up, was a topic for like Will Campbell last year. A lot of people I think he's got shorter arms. He's got some length concerns. And I think people are going to want to kick him into guard. I want to see another year because he actually 2 years ago was the left tackle at Utah. It didn't go great. They kicked him over to the right side last year and he had a pretty good year, especially as a run blocker. I want to see another year to see if I feel like he can handle those length issues, but this may be a guy that down the road we end up talking about kicking him inside, kind of like Will Campbell. But for me, I think I've watched about 8 or 9 tackles so far, and I think he's the best run blocker that I've watched so far. And like I said, there's still some consistency on his technique that he needs to clean up. But like, if you're saying, oh, we really need a nasty Mauler type, like, it would be really interesting if the Browns, like, I love Zach Zenner and Tevin Jenkins. I think they're the guard, you're starting left and right guard next year. But if for some reason you were like, Zach Zenner just doesn't look good or something like that, and you're like, I could replace Wyatt Teller and I think Fano would be better at guard, and you brought him in and did that, I think he would be the same style. But I'm always about letting him fail outside end. Put him out on tackle. If he fails at tackle, then move him in. But he's a guy that I really, really have my eye on, Spencer Fano, the right tackle from Utah.
Yeah, no, and you hit the nail on the head with Fano. This guy is just a filthy mauler in the run game. But the one thing that jumped off the film at me for Fano, his processing speed. This is a guy who is a redshirt sophomore, but he is out there processing stunts and blitzes and offensive line protection calls like he's a 10-year vet in the league. And he's running circles around folks. You see the intelligence on tape. He also has this like intensity about him when he's run blocking. It's just contagious. Like when you watch him push someone and pancake someone, he gets fired up about it. For me, he is a top 10 prospect. I've got him in my top 10, my 3rd overall offensive lineman, 1st round talent. The big thing for me is there's lapses in concentration, and part of it's just he's a redshirt sophomore. But watch it, especially on premature on kickbacks, on that kick slide. There's premature kick slides, and he gets beat too easily on the inside shoulder. Part of that is a length issue. It's a concern. There's rumors that he might not meet the threshold for tackle, but I haven't confirmed any numbers yet. We're in the summer. Schools haven't released that, aren't forthcoming with that information. But
Never are.
Yeah. But I think if you're looking at an offensive lineman, just a pure offensive lineman, guard or tackle, regardless, I think he is a top 10 talent in this class based on his run blocking ability. And he's not that bad in pass pro either.
No.
This is a guy who is NFL level pass pro, but is going to be otherworldly as a run blocker. And when I watch his game, it's Jordan Gross, the former Panther blindside tackle. Same thing. Great run blocker, was functional as a pass protector, and that's what you need in the NFL. Is if you're going to, like we talked about, if you're going to have 2 tackles left and right side, one's got to be a really good pass pro, one's got to be a really good run blocker. Fano is your good run blocker.
Especially if you can get him to be adequate at the other thing, which I think Fano is. You're like, okay, all right, Bill, give me your last guy here.
Yeah, so my last guy, we're going to go up to South Bend. We're going to go to Notre Dame for this one, and it's Emil Wagner from Notre Dame, the lightest guy probably of the list, 6'6", 290, so not even crossing the 300-pound threshold, which is probably the biggest issue. But, man, when you watch him in pass pro, going side to side, this guy is just exceptional. He has lateral agility and ability like no other. Really good hand placement. We've talked all afternoon about hand placement.
Yep.
He has it. And especially in zone blocking, like in a wide zone blocking scheme, he can move and move some people. He also, he, and pardon the pun, folks, he shows some dog in him when he gets to that second level. He is head hunting when he is pulling. He gets out there. Also, he holds his anchor against power pass rushers. Guys try to push through him. They're going to get stonewalled. But the weight deficiency at 290 is concerning. And when you're sub 300 as an offensive lineman, it's concerning. He did also allow almost 30 pressures last season, but didn't really have any sack numbers behind him. So when I see a high number of pressures and a low number of sacks, it gets concerning from a technical standpoint. There's some inconsistencies there that he picks up and he figures out. midway through the rep. So that's going to be something that needs to be refined. Does also need to learn to let go of people when the whistle blows. There's a lot of plays on South Bend's tape that he keeps going, and the whistle blew 15 minutes ago, and it's going to lead to some laundry on the field.
Yeah.
But for me, when I look at Wagner, he's a top 50 guy. I've got him 46th overall on my big board. Even though he plays the right side for Notre Dame, when I watch his game, it reminds me a lot of DeBrickashaw Ferguson when he was at Virginia, for eventually Jeff's blindside protector for many years. Wagner is a guy that you could feel comfortable putting on the left or right side. He probably will fit better at the right side in the NFL level. I would keep him there. If you have a choice in the matter, you could put him on the left side. I think the biggest concern is you've got to figure out how to get him to play in structure and let go of people, and also get him in a weight and conditioning program immediately, because you've got to get him over 310, because he's just going to get eaten alive in the NFL.
It's just funny. It's just a funny phrase. Like, you need to teach him how to get his hands off people a little earlier.
Just a little earlier. Like, when you hear the whistle, just, flop on the ground, do something.
The thing that I had a conversation one time with a supervisor of mine. We were talking about hiring. And it was several years ago when I was first in a position to hire people, and I had really never hired anybody. I had supervised some other people, but I was never the person that had hired them. And he said, one thing that you got to try to figure out, you got to find people with the right mentality, with the motivation, the people that are going to show up at the right time, or not at the right time, the required time, and they're going to do their job. We need to be able to rely on them, and for them to do what you're bringing them in to do. And you can mold them from there if they have the right mentality, but you can't teach them, mentality. You could work on their work ethic and things like that, and maybe you get better, but like teaching them the mentality to do what they're supposed to do and give their all, that's really kind of on them. And so when you find one of those guys, you can mold the other areas. So it's like, he's got the mentality. I just need to mold him to know, like you said, fall on the ground, man. It's over. Fall on top of the guy. I don't care what you do. Just let go of him before we get 15 yards. But like, he's got that kind of mentality going into it. You're like, excuse me. You're like, I can work with this. So we'll go from there. And, kind of do that sort of thing. So my last guy, I'm going back to the left side. I'm very excited about this guy. To see where he goes from there. And it's Isaiah World, the left tackle for Oregon. He played for Nevada previously, the last couple of years. Has a ton of experience. I think he might be a little older for the Browns, if I remember, but I don't think I saw an official age. Do you have an age on him by chance?
Let me pull up the scouting report.
But has a couple of years experience over in Nevada, goes to Oregon this year. Because I think did he play 3 years? I can't.
Yeah, he went 3 years at Nevada. So he enrolled in 2021 at Nevada.
It's always fun trying to find this stuff. It's like, what's this?
Yeah, he committed to them in 2021, which would have put him 17, 18 at that point. So you're probably looking 22, 23, if I had to guess. So he's going to be on the older side of things.
So here's another guy that's big. Is that a theme of this show? 6'8", 315 is what I've got him listed at. Yeah. Dude, I texted you this. His length, his arms specifically. I told you, I'm like, this guy's like 6'8", and if he stands straight up, I think his fingertips touch his knees. Mm-hmm. Which is insane to think about it. Absolutely. We talked about Spencer Fano having some shorter arms. This guy his arms might be too long. I don't think that's a thing, but they might be. They're enormous. The length is crazy. I think the thing about that gets a little frustrating with him is his pad level's inconsistent, and he loses the leverage battle. And it's like, with those arms, you should be winning the leverage battle as a run blocker, because like you have the advantage. You have the arms to keep a guy from not getting anywhere close to putting their hands on you, because you're able to push them back and keep them away from you because you can strong arm them. So kind of the pad level thing, which at 6'8", again, we talk about that. That's one thing. Like, you look at some of these taller tackles and things like that, you say, you know, that's an issue with them because it's hard to stay bent over like at that size and things of that nature. I do, however, love his hands. I think they're violent. I think they're he wants to punch you. He wants to knock you off course, stun you a little bit, take control of the rep. You talked about this with Fano. I think he does a really good job of recognizing stunts and twists and other things that defensive linemen are trying to do to confuse him and beat him on the reps. I think he has a pretty good quick processor. And that comes from, you know, multiple years of starting experience already under his belt going into this year. Yeah. I love his lateral agility. I think he moves pretty well side to side. Can handle speed and power rushers. The best, where he's at his best in pass protection, is when he activates his ridiculous length and just makes it impossible to go around him. It's just, when he strong arms you, when he puts them out, locks his arms out, has them out there and has control, like, you might be able, like, you could try to, I'm going to spin this way or I'm going to do that, whatever it is. You're just not going to be able to dip around him because he can reach you. You have to be really far away from him for him not to be able to get a hands on you. And by then, the quarterback's going to get the ball out of his hands. Yeah. Like, it's insane when you see him at his peak with the length that he has, where it's just like, I'm not even sure you're winning on anything other than length in this rep. Like, but I don't give a shit because he understands his physical tools and how to use them. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, lock those arms out, keep that guy like 3 feet from your body, because that's what it feels like. Your arms are like 3 feet long. And he's really fun. I have him high on my board. I will have him high on my board when I make one. But now he gets to step up and go to the Big Ten. And I know they don't play Ohio State this year, Oregon, but there's the level of competition, even from the bottom of the Big Ten, is going to be on par with the top of what he was playing at Nevada. So you're going to be able to see that can all of those things convert over to higher competition? Because Josh Conerly had a massive leap last year in that system. Yeah. And what I was reading something about Cornelius, the right tackle from Oregon last year, having a lot to do with Isaiah World coming to Oregon, because they knew each other. I don't remember if they were teammates in high school or what it was, but they knew each other. And World was like, I want to go somewhere where I can be developed more, where I can refine my game and I can rise my draft stock, put me in a better spot come 2026 when I enter the draft. And Cornelius, I had a conversation with him about what the Oregon staff had done for him, what they had done for Josh Conerly on the left side. And he was the number one player in the transfer portal. He was the guy that everybody wanted. And because he's got all these physical tools, and he's another guy where work on his footwork, work on some of the hand placements and things like that. But like, you've got these things that I can't teach. And if I can teach you the things that you don't know, you're cooking with gas at that point. And so I'm really excited to see what Oregon can do for Isaiah World, because I think the world is his oyster.
I love it. I love it.
I was trying to find some way to sneak that in. I just didn't know where I was going to put it.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. You look at what Cornelius did. Cornelius went from Rhode Island to Oregon. So the same things we talked about for World, we talked about Cornelius in the last cycle. I love Cornelius as a prospect in terms of length, in terms of his fundamentals and pass protection. They've improved year over year. And he has the mental processor that you want to look for in an offensive tackle, can pick up blitz, stunts and things of that nature. What concerns me the most is his penalties and his tendency to draw them. 32 penalties in 3 years at Nevada is rough.
Yeah.
And it's gone down. It was 13 to 11 to 8, but now we're going up to a level in competition. So that penalty discipline that you look for, it's going to be concerning. You can't keep getting us flagged and putting us in a hole. In addition, he's adequate, I guess is the term I'm going to use. He's average in his explosion off the snap. When the ball's snapped, he can get up, but he doesn't explode. So like on an outside zone run, on a second level block, the world's not going to be able to get up to speed quick enough to make that happen. I really want to see how he does with quarterback Dante Moore, if Dante Moore is the ultimate starter at Oregon, because more and more mobile quarterback, more of a scrambler. We've already seen World have an issue with penalties, but I think if he cleans that up, I think you're looking at I have him as a round 2, between round 2, round 3 guy, right outside of my top 64. I think you're looking at a guy that could possibly sneak into the back end of the first round. My comp for him is probably the most fun comp on my entire offensive lineman board. And this is it. It's Indianapolis Colts offensive tackle Bernard Raymond with the arms of Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. Yeah.
So that's what you're going to get with Isaiah World. You're going to get, a Marvel arm length type of character with the athletic ability of Ryman. And I think any team can bring him in, break him of that penalty discipline, and refine the stuff he's already really good at in pass pro and in run blocking as well. This is a guy who could be an NFL starter for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I see the path to that is easy. In terms easy to see, not easy. He's going to have to work his ass off, but
right.
But in terms of can you, we talked about this with the quarterback battle that's currently going on in Cleveland. Can you envision this? Yeah, easily. I
100%.
That's fine. I see where he's at. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We're going to go. Bill will be on here a bunch of times as I can steal some of his time. So I really appreciate your time. I'm going to rotate through some other draft professors and some things like that. Some people that are doing amazing work that maybe aren't getting the recognition that they deserve, like Bill, because Bill is doing absolutely phenomenal work, and people need to make sure they're following him and follow him all year long. If you're a draft head like us, because he puts me to shame, and I think I do a lot. I told him that during the cycle. I'm like, dude, I grind as much as anybody else. I'm like, but you put me to shame on what you do. So it's really impressive. I'm very excited that you were here today, man. Real quick before we go, can you just tell everybody where to find your stuff?
Yeah, you can find all of my stuff over on X at Sparks Scouting. I do all sorts of things from scouting reports to cut-ups to just little snippets. I'm also a writer and analyst for the Right Way Sports Network. That's TWSN.net. Right now working through my top 10 lists over there, as well as I'll have a top 64 by the end of the summer there as well. As well as you can catch me over with the Draft Professor on YouTube.com, NFL Draft Fanatic, no I in Fanatic, on the Mrs. Irrelevant Daily Draft Podcast. I've got a couple episodes coming up here soon, and then we'll start summer scouting over there as well.
I'm very excited to be a delinquent this summer. Guys, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this first episode. I think wide receivers probably next week. I'm not sure. We'll see how that kind of works out. I appreciate you all for checking out the OBR. Tomorrow is Thursday, which means all eyes on Cleveland with Brad Ward and Casey Kinnaman at 7. Of course, Browns 3D Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. with Jeff Lloyd. So please make sure you check that stuff out. Get locked in over at theobr.com. I will see you guys again next time. As always, go Browns.
Go Browns.